Hey, hope you've been well. This episode is so good that we had to make it a two-part series. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready to be inspired in such a transformational way. Let me tell you, we did not hold back on this conversation. If you're ready to deepen your faith, if you're ready to embrace your multiple callings on your life, then this conversation is for you. Welcome to Musings of a Geriatric Mama, where we discuss all things millennial and motherhood. This is not your average show where we romanticize being a mom, but rather a place where we keep it real while guiding you through restorative living and wellness, mind, body, and soul. Here you'll find impactful insights from high-achieving moms and mother figures, navigating life through this exhausting yet simultaneously rewarding journey. You may laugh or cry, and even possibly pee yourself. So do a Kegel or two and hold on to your seat. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but it doesn't have to be a lonely one. I'm your host, Kedna Amey, and thank you for meeting me here. Welcome back to another episode of Musings of a Geriatric Mama, and I'm already really excited about today's episode. We are going to be talking about balancing motherhood while building community and living as a multi-passionate creative. I have a special guest with me today. Chanae Woods-Esq is a lawyer, author, host, wife, mother, daughter, sister, friend, and the visionary founder of Rome 8 Wellness, a faith-driven movement designed to nurture transformation in mind, body, and spirit. Inspired by Romans 8:31, Shanae built Rome 8 as a safe, holistic space where physical wellness meets spiritual renewal, rooted in the belief that if God is for us, who can be against us? Her journey was shaped by years of battling body image, self-doubt, and the pressures of perfection. Through faith, strength training, and deep inner work, she discovered that real change begins from the inside out. Today, she empowers women to live fully, confidently, and fearlessly through her programs, coaching, and community-centered resources. Shanae is also the founder of the Envision Me Conference, a transformational experience designed to help individuals step boldly into their purpose with faith, clarity, and community. A true multi-hyphenate creative, she is committed to helping others rewrite their narratives, reclaim their power, and walk in their God-given identity. Whether she's advocating in the courtroom, inspiring women on stage, hosting meaningful conversations, or showing up with authenticity in motherhood, Shanae embodies what it means to lead with purpose, faith, and resilience. Welcome, Shanae.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. And Shanae, honestly, this conversation, I believe, is going to set a lot of people free, put some perspective into what it really means to be multi-passionate, multi-hyphenate, and try to do all the things. Like try to find balance, and it's just a lot, but I think it's going to be a breath of fresh air for us to have this conversation, because a lot of us may feel alone in having all these ideas stirring on the inside, and getting insight on what it means to finally birth these things, or taking the time to understand that even though we have all these ideas, time is essential for us to be able to birth these things in due season. And I think that's the biggest thing. What we're so passionate about so much is just trying to figure out how to navigate when the time is right. So, Shanae, before we deep dive into our conversation, I just want to get your perspective on who Shanae was before motherhood and before creating this community and empire that you're building.
So pre-motherhood, pre-Rom 8, Envision Me, I think that, I can kind of break it up into phases, right? And so younger me, I think I was a person who maybe always had potential to advocate and to be this person that stands up for others. But because I was so filled with insecurity and shame, I think the enemy really used a lot of things in my childhood to prevent me from getting to where I am now. And so those hurdles that existed early on dealt largely in the realm of attacking my confidence, attacking my faith and belief in myself and my capabilities possibilities of what I, could do. And so younger me was insecure, sad. I think high school me and emerging college me was depressed often and constantly still dealing with those body image issues. And then I think there was some bitterness that started to form and did form early on, like I would say college days.
Okay.
And being and meeting my husband, I think it was, God sent in the sense that he helped me, I would say, to discover parts of me that I otherwise probably would not have discovered, right? And so shedding some of those bitterness that I was holding on to, resentfulness, encouraging me to make amends with certain family members, things of that nature. I think it helped me to start to heal and assisted me to start to see who God had actually called me to be. And so sometimes, God will place people in your lives to give you a mirror that you otherwise would not have. And I think that's what God did for me with my husband. He gave me someone who spoke to the inner parts of me and was like, hey, this is how you actually look. And literally said to me one night as I was crying, and I think we were newlyweds early on in our marriage, and I'm crying, to sleep about just my weight and how I look and how I feel. And he said to me, I can't wait for the day that you see you how I see you. And it has always stuck with me because before the 90 plus pound weight loss, before walking as boldly as I do in my purpose and my calling, before all those things, he saw me how God saw me, right? That sense of you are powerful, you are confident, you are beautiful, you are all those things now, not later, but right now you are those things. And so I think it's important, whether it's through your marriage or through relationships that you have with friends, but being around people that can speak life into you and that can hold that mirror up for you, right? And even clean that mirror for you as well, because we're probably seeing it in a cloudy way and form. I have phases, like I said, phases of who I was. And then even in terms of motherhood, I feel like prior to motherhood, I don't think I had the same level of love that I'm able to display and compassion. Having my son made me realize, especially a son with some of the issues that we had to deal with early on, with the speech delays and some of the behavioral issues, it really, really made me realize, slow it down and realize, put yourself in someone else's shoes. And I think pre-me was just a little more selfish. Pre-Aubrey, probably a little more selfish in some sense. So I not to, be too long-winded, because I feel like I've been answering this question for a long time now. But I think that it really just, it depends. I think prior to those phases in my life, I was a different person. And I think now that I've experienced what I've experienced through motherhood, and then also being a visionary through Rameh, I now collectively am just a very more confident me. I think that's more than anything. Pre those things, I didn't walk in the same authority and confidence as I do now, because I always say, man, I pushed the baby out in my room, with no assistance, no nothing, unmedicated. And I feel like I could do anything. So I think that confidence that it gave me of my son alone, that is night and day compared to who I was before and who I am now, for sure.
Oh my gosh. I have to pause and really just
unpack.
No, as I'm digesting it, and as the audience has time to reflect, I'm just thinking about transformation. And what I heard from what you said is that transformation is something that is pivotal to the foundation you build for that next becoming.
100%.
Everything that you endured and overcame, whether it was through battling body image or finding and rebuilding the self-esteem and who you've always been, and then having to overcome the challenges of motherhood, that's just setting you up for your becoming.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful because we get to witness it. And it's beautiful because, sometimes like when we see people we admire on social media or, in different outlets, we just see them.
Yeah.
This like amazing person, not understanding that they are a person and that they had to work through whatever they needed to in order to be where they are, in order to be who we see currently. And what I realized with life is that life is a journey of becoming. And the Shanae in 5 years, or the Kedna in 5 years, or the audience member in 5 years is going to be another iteration. And what matters to me, as long as we're in alignment with our true purpose and calling anyway, it doesn't matter how we got there, what it took, the healing we needed to get there, but we're getting there daily. And I just commend you for your strength, because motherhood alone can just literally shake your identity. It can transform. If you don't find a way to get through the tougher times, it could just change who you are in general. And I think like the whole purpose of this show is that we have community so that we don't feel alone in the shifting, so that we really understand that the shifting is a part of the process of becoming. And I'm just excited that I get to witness it, to be honest. And I'm just excited that there's community that you built from everything that you've gone through.
Right.
And now you're helping other women transform and have these transformational experiences and have these faith-driven experiences. And when you have vision like this, Shanae, tell us, like, how do you really stay anchored when life can pull you in so many different directions?
So that's the easy answer to that. Is completely God. Like, I think that if I did not have God in my life, honestly, I don't know where I would be. I feel like, well, actually, I do know where, right? Because I feel like I've experienced life with its hand off of me when I wanted to be rebellious, and I'm sick of it and all this other stuff. I've had my moment. And I remember telling God, like, I know what it feels like when the favor that you bestow upon me is lifted. And I don't want to experience that again in my life. And so I've made this commitment that it's him and I.
Yes.
Whether or not, I think sometimes whether or not I want to either, like he's not going to let me go. He's made it crystal clear, like, you are mine, I am yours, and we're in this together. And I think that experience, if I didn't have my faith, I'm not quite sure how I would navigate this world without it. And so I'm a strong believer in that. So sometimes, like, we kind of put God on this like separate little corner that we pick him up when it's Sunday, right? We might go, this is my God day, and then I'm going back and navigating life regular.
Right.
Just think, like, why take the harder route when, you have somebody that knows all, sees all, done it before, created the thing? Like, why would I not seek that person to help and guide me through all of these life circumstances? So I think from my perspective, I do a lot, I carry a lot. My capacity to carry a lot is greater because I think God has trained me over the years. Like you said before, like, you're kind of building up to this thing, you're becoming constantly. So while I have this great capacity, I do get weary, I do get tired, and sometimes I get unmotivated or I get a little discouraged along the way. And when those situations come, when it happens, I always got to go back to like my why and my who, right? I think my who, it's because of him. It's because I'm doing this to honor my father. And I look at my relationship with God truly like my relationship with my father, and I get so emotional because it makes me think about my biological father. And I just think that my experience with my daddy, my earthly father, and him transitioning, I think taught me so much about my relationship with my heavenly father. Because I say to myself, if a human being is capable to love and to treat me the way that my earthly dad treated me, then how much more does my heavenly father loves me? Yeah. If I have the capacity to love Aubrey the way I love him, and do anything for him and I want the best for him. I think motherhood made me realize, like, I can imagine what God feels about me, right? Because this is what I feel about my little one. This is how my daddy in real life treat me. Like, I know now that you don't play about me and that you are going to take care of me. And so I just stay connected.
Yes.
And that's what allows me to like anchor myself before I get too, caught up in the world and the fears and things that kind of like hold you back. So that's my anchor 100%.
I couldn't agree more with you. Growing up, I always said this: I'd rather be in than out, meaning like I would have rather to have lived a life knowing and experiencing God than to not have, to be honest with you. And for listeners, this community is rooted in my belief in God and Jesus. Not trigger warning. We're going to be talking about God today, okay? And we're going to do it unapologetically because the truth is, for us and for many, motherhood, life, and all the challenges we go through without an anchor can be almost unsustainable. Like, how do you navigate loss? Like, how do you navigate and lost on so many different levels, like loss of either a loved one, loss of sense of self, loss of a job, loss of financial income. Like, how do you navigate the harder things in life? And for me and for my house, we will serve the Lord. We choose to have this intentional relationship. And this is not I'm going to go there. This is not the politicized version of faith. This is real deep connection that is rooted in understanding the love of God and living a life that mirrors that love for others. Okay. So the passion that you see and that you hear here is driven by a life of love, a reflection of God's love for us, and therefore our love for the people that we serve, whether it's our family or our clients or the community. And that anchor I will never be ashamed of. Ever, 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 ever. Because, baby, between motherhood 2025.
Girl.
Oh, my God.
Girl. Whew.
Lord.
Yeah. Hello.
But it's the truth.
I'm glad that I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to praise you in that area because I feel like as an entrepreneur in any space in life in 2026 and beyond, in so many other spaces, we can say what we want and have our views, but we live in this cancel culture so much nowadays that it makes you fearful of like, oh, should I say stuff? Should I not? And people have really tried to quiet and silence God for so long. And I told myself when I did this, I was not going to separate God from my business because by the very nature of the name, right? Rom 8, like you said in the bio, based on Romans 8. Yeah. I cannot take him out and I'm choosing not to. Like, it's forcefully. You can't remove him from this equation. And so to hear you as, a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and to make it clear that this community that you have, this platform, baby, we gonna talk about God unapologetically.
Absolutely.
He is in the room.
Yes.
They don't know, but you started this conversation with prayer, right? Before that record went on, prayer and God was invited into this space, into this conversation. And I think that's how you stay blessed. That's how I stay blessed. That's how even when you go through what you go through, God remains and he continues to honor us because we honor him in our doing. And I think that is it's a moment that I want to just highlight because I just know like it makes our Father happy, right? And I think that even if we just think about that, like it's like if your kid was over here doing something that you taught them and you're like, I'm kind of proud. So I'm like, I know my daddy proud of that moment. His daughters are honoring him and in a way that's like, I don't care if you don't want to hear it, but I can't show up without my father. Like,
honestly, thank you for that space because I've just gone through so much. So many of us have gone through so much, but God.
Yeah.
Okay. Or only God,
Yeah.
that I'm sitting here, that we're sitting here having a conversation about the things he put in us.
Yeah.
Like, it is a blessing to be able to sit down in the air conditioning and on a
Yeah.
computer and have a computer and have an opportunity to talk about anything, right? So for me, I'm choosing to encourage people because so many of us have gone through so much. Sometimes we feel lost in this life.
Right.
Even if you're a believer, it does not automatically mean your life is going to be better.
It's gonna be worse. Like a lot of times, like I always say, like I have a friend who I shared this with a friend of mine who they're engaged and her fiance made a comment of like, I don't understand why people say like things are gonna get worse or if you're married, like we're basically like we're married now. They live together, so like we don't have issues, we don't have any of those things. And I said, and I couldn't even help myself. I said, the difference is right now you're living a life where the enemy has no reason to bother you. You're doing exactly what he wants you to do. You're, cohabiting, you're fornicating. All those things are great in his eyes. He don't care. Like life is great for you. The second you add a union to the mix and you put this under a covenant, spiritual covenant with God, now you have something that he does not like, he does not want. And let me see how I can break this union up. Let me things that you never experienced before. So I think even as believers, sometimes it might feel as if sometimes we're under attack even more because I feel like now you got something I actually care about because before you didn't, when you weren't a believer. Like, look at so many people, even in social media. Like we can look and say like, gosh, this person have this many followers and they're doing all these things and they're talking about nothing. They're talking about foolishness. And I remember listening to a sermon and the pastor was like, the same way that God has certain capabilities and powers, the enemy has some too. And he has the ability to elevate people in certain ways. And if sometimes he elevate these people who should not have a platform for a reason, because if I can get you to now influence in a negative way the masses, like that's helpful to the enemy's agenda now. So sometimes like we might look at someone and look at their following and see like, how in the world? And it's like, that's how in the world, because they're working for somebody else's agenda. And I think that the Bible is very clear, like our path that we're on, the straight and narrow, is not for the faint hearted. It's not something that it's much easier to go down a path of doing it the wrong way and being elevated quicker, right? But I always thought, like, don't elevate me if I'm not ready, because I want to keep the thing that you give me. I want to sustain it. And if you don't think I'm going to sustain it, if you think that there's some other lessons that I need to learn first, then keep me right here. Keep me here until I'm ready for that next stage, because it's plenty of people who get there and then fall off, or get there and then you sell your soul. And I'm like,
let's talk about that. Let me tell you. So you started off with something that was like, it like struck a chord with me. You said a spiritual covenant. You were talking about marriage in that sense, but like we are in spiritual covenant as believers with God, right? So the works of the enemy is to steal, kill, destroy, and confuse, right? So when you're building a platform that is faith-filled and purpose-driven, the obstacles will come because at the end of the day, we're trying to spread the gospel. Right. We're trying to encourage people. We're trying to have people see that a faith-filled life is not a life that's missing anything, but can be a life that is filled with things of the spirit, such as joy, hope, love, understanding, patience, kindness, gentleness, there's more to it. And as for anyone that is building something that is purpose-driven, the challenges may present themselves, but the good news is we have God on our side. We have someone on our side that wants us to succeed. And in these trials and these tests of our faith, that is when our faith is built. Right. In the slower seasons, or in the seasons that are more intentional, because we took the time to build something that is sustainable, long lasting, purpose-driven. In this time, our faith is being built. One of the things that I told myself this year that you also said because I found myself in a different season where I wasn't doing a million things and going a million miles per hour as I'm used to. When you're multi-hyphenate, when you're multi-passionate, when you're an ambitious woman, I mean, we're used to getting things done. So in this season of it being slower in quotations, it was hard. I had to really internally battle not doing all the things at the same time. Finally, the revelation came a little later because in the beginning, I was just floored. Okay. I was like sad. I was down. I was like asking God, why? Why me? Why now? You know what I want to do. Why am I getting all this adversity? Why am I getting all this, pushback? And the truth is, I needed to be still to hear him.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to be still to get in alignment, or to understand that the plan that I had may not have been the plan that he really has for me. And like you said, if I'm going to do anything, I want God to bless it, and I want it to be at the right time. Because sometimes if we elevate too quickly and at the wrong time, we're not going to be able to handle it, because attention is attention, whether it's negative or positive. And we need to have the foundation to be able to stand solid on what we're trying to convey.
Right.
Shanae, you were a lawyer, an author, a host, a founder, a visionary, a wife, a daughter, all the things. Like, how did you learn to embrace your multi-passionate identity instead of trying to choose one lane?
It took time.
Okay.
And going back to what you said at the very beginning, like all the experiences that you have, every situation God places you in, or you place yourself in, even out of being rebellious.
Yeah.
I'm a strong believer in Romans 8:28. Like, heart and core of me believes that so much. Like, all things work for my good. I really, really internalize that. And so I think looking back at my life, I was building almost like a muscle, right? Like, starting with, I'm in school and I'm in this club. And then next thing you know, I'm running for president. Then after that, I'm juggling this and I'm that. So all these things add up to it. And so when it came down to it, law school, I think, gave me a good training ground for being able to multitask and to do a lot of things at one time. And the more and more I would do that, the better I got at it. And I think it's even in a sense of motherhood, being a wife, it's multitasking, right? Even if you're doing one assignment, you're not just doing that one thing, right? You're, doing drop off, and then you're packing lunch, and then you got to figure out what they're going to eat for dinner. And some people, they do that solo. I'm blessed to have someone to help me, right? I have a partner in this, but motherhood in itself is multifaceted. Like, you have multiple assignments that's a part of that one assignment. And so I struggled with initially, I would say, being a lawyer and also having this creative. That was probably the biggest struggle more than any other struggle, because in my mind, I was a little bit too caught up with what others would perceive me as, right? And so when you do something intellectual, you want the intellects and your peers to look at you a certain way. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, how can I be this creator, but also this attorney? And I don't want people to not take me seriously, because, that is where I think I battle with more than anything else. Not the battle of if I can handle these things. God had already taught me, right? Like, looking at David only was able to conquer Goliath because he had already killed a lion and a bear prior to that, right? And so God had already prepared him. He knew he could handle that. He knew he had the capacity. So it's never been an issue of if I'm able to handle something. That I'm pretty sure I can. God taught me and showed me that I could. Mm-hmm. Where I found to be the most, battle was getting over what other people thought. Anything else. It's not that I didn't think I could do it. I know I can do it. It's just like, well, how is this going to look? Me doing all these things, and they probably think I'm not a good mom because they don't really see me around my son like that. And then if I don't post my son, and they think I'm this non-existent mother. All these things was just like more so about perception than reality. And so to answer in succinctly, the training helped of me knowing that I was able to walk into this space and handle multiple things. And then after that, God just had to be very clear with me, in which he was. Like I woke up one morning and it was a voice as audible as I can like clearly hear. And it said like, don't be afraid to go outside the four corners of the box.
Mm.
It has stuck with me, and it's really what has birthed Raw Mate, because I was afraid to enter this space because, again, I'm a lawyer, I'm an intellect, and now you want me to kind of position myself. I don't want people thinking I'm a trainer and I'm not
Yeah.
certified trainer. How does this look? All those things. So God just had to make it clear, don't be afraid to go outside the four corners. Like, you need to get outside of what you think a lawyer looks, act, and feel like. And you need to be who I called you to be, which is a multi-hyphenated, multi-talented individual who's going to dominate and show up in multiple spaces. I can't tell you how many people would tell me, especially in law school, like, you don't want to be, a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Yeah.
And I took that as like motivation. And I made it very clear, no, baby, I'm going to be a master of everything that I'm doing. I graduated top of my class. I was president of, editor-in-chief of Law Review, which is the top organization on campus. I was on trial team, another honors organization. I was president of the Black Law Student Association. Those are not jacks at all. Like, those are nothing about everything I named. Every single one of those things, I was top in every single one. And so some people can't seem to wrap their minds around how. And for me, it's like I started to feed into what they were thinking instead of believing what God told me about me. And he told me I could do those things, and I'm empowered by him to do those things, then I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do them very well on top of that. So I think I approach motherhood, wife, entrepreneur, corporate baddie. I approach it all the same way. Like, I know this looks crazy and it doesn't look like it's ever been done before, but it'll be a first somewhere, right? Maybe that first is me. Who knows? So I just think that that's how I walk into it now, is leaning more into what God told me about me, opposed to what people perceive me.
Okay, we're done. The recording's done. No, we can stop right there. That was a word. That was a message. And it struck a chord with me. And I know it's going to strike a chord with a lot of the people that listen and see this. I have been told my whole life that I do too much. I had a coworker tell me, because by trade, I'm a nurse practitioner.
Wow.
Okay. I've had my parents question what I'm doing. People say, how do you leave being a nurse to doing what you're doing now? And for me, I always was doing something. By the time I was 26, I had my master's. And while I was working as a nurse on the floor, I was in my master's program. I worked night shifts so that I can go to school during the day. And then while I was waiting to get my first job, I worked in, the recovery room in the hospital, and also taught at a local community college nursing. And I was in the choir, and I served at church, and I was doing all the things. And one of my coworkers, because she, I guess, could see the overwhelm or whatever, was like, you have too many eggs in your basket. And that actually crippled me for some time. And I had been told that you're too sensitive and you're this and you're that. And it took me becoming a mother at 34 to let go of people pleasing, to let go of people defining me, to finally realize that up until this year, really, that it's okay for me to do all the things. And it's okay to have multiple callings on your life. Mm-hmm. We are created by a creator. And if we're made in his image, then we are also creators, right? So how am I going to deny my identity? Mm-hmm. And for so long, I fed into the narrative about me being team too much. From the time we could remember, we were taught to operate with the spirit of excellence. Mm-hmm. And that's generational, because our generations, our families had to overcome so much. And to be in these rooms and to be in these spaces, it took a lot of sacrifice from those generations to position us here. Yep. And maybe there's deeper roots, and we don't want to let the former generations down. We have to work harder sometimes because of maybe who we are or the color of our skin or being a woman. So we strive for excellence, and that's just the bar that we set, and there's nothing wrong with that. What I did learn is that there is room for grace and rest. And I'm learning that, and it's a steep learning curve, okay? Because I did not embrace it very well because I was so used to going. But for anyone that is listening, please continue to be the multi-hyphenate, multi-passionate, multi-called person.
Yeah.
Because the gifts that you have inside of you are not for yourself. Gifts are to be given. And if you need any encouragement, let it be today that you can be all you want to be. You can do all the things. The caveat is understanding there's a space for grace and rest and boundaries. And that's what I had been learning and up until this point. So I'm happy that you were able to just say it, okay? And be proud of this woman that you're called to be, this woman that you're evolving to be, because the world needs what you have. The world needs what you have. And if we're fearful and ashamed, then a lot of people may miss their breakthrough because of it.
Amen. And I realized, if God placed this, if this thing is not moving from my heart, and I can't shake it.
Yep.
I know it's because he put it there.
Yep.
So it's not going anywhere.
Yep.
So no matter how much I try to be something other than who I am, it's not going to show up. And it's ironic that you mentioned grace, because at the top of this year, I hosted Envision Me. You were a part of it, right? So you saw the level of intentionality that it took and what we invested in that conference. And I felt like I was on this mountaintop that I had. But right afterwards, I felt like I was in this low. So the next few months afterwards, God really dealt with me on grace, realizing when you can only do so much, that's when my grace kicks in. That's when I graced you to be able to handle these things. I graced you to be able to show up the way that you show up. And whenever you feel like you're not enough or you can't do it, I look at Paul often and how he begged God to remove this thorn from his side, and whatever he was dealing with that moment, he's asking for relief, and God's like, no, I'm going to keep it there. I asked God for relief so much in so many areas of my life, and in struggles that I've dealt with, and thinking why won't you just remove this thing I'm struggling with? Or why won't you just make the path clear? And then he'll always go back to, I'm not taking it away because my grace is sufficient.
Amen.
Right? And so that's even what I have to realize, when we have these moments, we do all the things, but we have these moments where we feel overwhelmed. And so to the world, they're like, okay, so why are you doing this? Or why don't you just give up? You're doing this to yourself. Realize I have to kind of go back to that, is that in these moments, I have to remind myself, your grace is sufficient. That's all I need. All I need is your grace, and I'm going to be able to make it through this. I'm going to be able to handle all these assignments that you've given me. And then there's other times where, I do have to take a moment and say hey, Shanae, maybe this is not necessary right now.
Yes,
I guess he gave you all these ideas, but did he tell you to execute them all at the same time? Did he tell you to do that? Let's just reevaluate that. Yes, you. But, even kind of pulling it back to saying, I always tell God, I want to be a good steward over things that he's given me.
Yes.
The marriage that he's blessed me with, the child that he's, blessed me with, the career that he's blessed me with, the home that he's blessed me with. How do I be a good steward over those things, right?
Yeah.
So when I do think I'm going a little too hard and I'm invest a little bit too much in one thing over the other, I kind of peel it back a little bit to evaluate, when we're talking off camera about some of the things I'm reevaluating right now. But I think that that's necessary.
Yes.
in order for God to continue to give you more too. Because God is a wise God, and no person in wisdom is going to invest in someone or provide somebody with more and more gifts or more opportunities to do anything if they're wasting their investment, right? God, as he's investing in me, and how am I going to make sure that he knows he's getting a return off of this investment? That's one, me actually doing something with these gifts.
Yes.
So it doesn't take them away. That's one. But for two, I want to be wise in my decision making. And so I think something that people don't put enough emphasis on is wisdom, right? Teaches us so much about wisdom and realizing like, and it refers to wisdom as a woman, as a she, as a her, right? And so she screams at the top of like the rooftop, begging people to listen to her and all these things. Like the way that Proverbs describes it, it's like, if you have wisdom, everything else, it will automatically fall into place. So I seek God's wisdom to teach me how to handle and how to be this multifaceted woman, because what I don't want to communicate, and I'm careful with, is that I am a proponent of marriage. I am a proponent of, motherhood, of all these things that I have. I am a proponent of these things. And if you want them, right? If this is your calling, this is what God has given you, then I want to be the woman that says like, yes, I'm all the things. But I also want to be mindful that I'm not telling you to go out there and work yourself down to the bone.
Right.
Forsake your marriage and forsake your child. I have to be very mindful when I'm going too hard and when when I got to tone it back a little bit, because again, going back to stewardship, I need to steward this marriage. I need to steward this child of mine. Like, I don't want to gain the world and lose my soul and lose my family. So while in the same sentence, I will say like, do all the things and you can do this. And yes, I'm that girl. I will say that, but I also have to be more mindful now. And I told myself I will, like, that the home, that's our responsibilities too. And whether you delegate that responsibility, if you paying for a housekeeper and stuff, so be it. And, but I just think like, or whether you're divvying up chores with your husband, that's fine too. But just make sure that you put your mind towards that as well. Is what I realize, like, I have to kind of be reminded of to balance it all as much as possible.
Yes. Okay. So I don't know if anyone had like a pen and paper out, but this might be your chance to just go ahead and take some notes. Okay. What you said was so rich. What you said, a lot of us needed to hear. The ambitious woman will be the ambitious woman. It's our DNA. It's our DNA to do. It's our DNA to go. It's our DNA to create. Because we see, especially if you are a visionary, if you're a trailblazer, if you're a community builder, we see beyond what is in front of us.
Right.
The thing about being a visionary is just being in alignment with seeing beyond what is possible. That's the truth. Like, you believe that the work that you're putting in can be a change maker, a generation curse breaker, like for real. Understanding that rest, reevaluation, and pivots are just as important as grind culture.
Yep.
Because we have been indoctrinated to do, to pursue, to achieve, that if we do something other than, or we try to take a break or rest or preserve our mental wellness, then it's bad or it's failure. But it's not failure. It's strength. It's success. To be able to pause, reflect, rebuild, pivot, figure it out, pray. Like, it's okay if you do that. Next year, you said so many good things. Wisdom. I sat down and I did my planning, or started my planning for the new year. And it was like, what do you want your CEO identity to be? And one of the words that I put down was wise. It was wise. I want to be wise. I want to trade chaos for clarity. Because the go, 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 the grind culture, the pursue, it can leave you overwhelmed. it can leave you anxiety stricken and it can leave you depleted.
Yeah.
And I was so used to doing it. But when my body started to, and we'll talk a little bit more about body and wellness, because this community is also built on mental, physical, and spiritual wellness, like giving practical advice to women and mothers on how to like be well in all aspects. You know, when you go, it starts to deteriorate all aspects of your wellness. And you're able to, you know, you had this transformational journey with wellness, and not only physical wellness, but spiritual wellness. And I want us to talk a little bit more about ROM 8, and then we're going to lead into Envision Me. But you just said so much that is good. It was good. It was yummy. Pause, reevaluate, pour into your why and your who. You said that earlier. Pour into your why and pour into your who, and understand who and whose you are.
Amen.
The clarity will come. And the thing is, I realize we have to redefine what success means. You know, there's societal definitions of success. There's spiritual significance and definitions of success. Like, who do we really want to be? What life do we really want to live? Is it based on what we see on media outlets, or is it based on who we know who we are and identity in our faith in God?
Right.
Like, I've had so many internal battles this year with trying to figure that out. But once I had that clarity and I had the desire to seek wisdom and to seek God, I know everything else is going to fall into place. It's just finding the time to get silent and realize that. And thank you so much for your vulnerability. And thank you so much already for pouring into our community and reminding us that these things are necessary, that you could be that girl, but you could be a girl that is rooted, anchored, and well, mind, body, and soul. And that kind of reminds me of what you're doing with ROM 8. And I'd love to talk a little bit about that, and then hopefully segue into what Envision Me is doing and the transformation that you pray women experience when they do attend this conference.
Absolutely. So ROM is a lifestyle brand that God placed on my heart to create that really help women align and live a purpose-driven life, right? Through mind, body, and soul. And so we primarily do that through creating events that blend beauty, faith, wellness in a way that feels modern and approachable. Because I think growing up in ministry, I've grew up in church my whole life, and I've always loved the Lord. But my relationship with God really became established when I chose to have a relationship with him, right? It's like any other person. You can't say, like, you know, I used to say to my mom, like, well, how do you know you're hearing God? And she as simply was like, you know my voice, right? If you close your eyes and I was talking, you'd be able to identify that I was your mom or it was your dad. And that's because you spent so much time with us. Know you're
My girl, come
on, person, right?
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing with God. It's that if you spend enough time with him, you don't have to question whether or not you heard him or who he's talking to you. And so my experience with God and birthing ROM 8 was just that I gotten so in tune with who I was speaking to. And so it was clear that this is what he wanted me to create. A company that almost models what he did for me in my life. Walked me through mind, body, and soul transformation. First mentally, you know, and well, first spiritually, I would say my relationship with him. And then it became something that was also manifested physically through my weight loss journey. And I utilized that to get even closer with God. And I would look at God and like, Jesus is my trainer. Like it was me and him, and he was coaching me to give me the tools and resources I needed to shed this physical manifestation of weight. And then that mental weight that I carried, that bitterness that I spoke about earlier, that resentfulness, all those things, I think he gave me resources and tools through the form of therapy to seal the deal. So mind, body, soul transformation is what I experienced to now fully walk in a purpose-driven life. Yes. And so ROM 8, what I do is I curate these events that bring women together to give them those same tools and resources. And Envision Me just so happens to be our signature event that we host at the top of the year, because everybody have these goals, these visions that we want to achieve, whether you're an ambitious person or not. Everybody has something, right? Even the most, I guess, non-adventurous, non-vision forward person, there's something that you kind of map out for yourself, and even from a day-to-day standpoint, right?
Sure.
And so, but the top of the year, January, we know that so many people attach that to their dreams, their goals. I want to lose 50 pounds.
Yeah.
I want to get closer to God. I
Yeah.
want to, try to have a baby, whatever that goal is. Sometimes it's like we have the goal, but what do I need to actually achieve that? And so
Yeah.
Envision Me is hosted at the top of the year where those goals are top of mind. And then we bring in resources and tools to kind of help you get you started.
Yeah.
I'm not this person, like, I'm not trying to sell anybody a dream or some false hope of like, you come and this is the magic pill that's going to fix all your problems in the world.
Right.
No, it's not that, but it is something that I would say is a detox, a refreshment,
Yeah.
something that starts that
A
process.
Kickstarter, for sure.
It starts to get going. And then throughout the year, we follow up with several other things in our Raw Mate Circle and all the other micro events we have throughout the year to kind of reinforce what we taught at the beginning of the year. But I think Envision Me is such a beautiful event and conference because it's not like a conference that I've ever attended personally, right? Like, I think having something that connects me from a mental standpoint where I can go and listen to panels of therapists and talk about a therapeutic conversation. But at the same time, I can also talk to someone about my physical changes. And then I can also have a panel where we're talking about entrepreneurship, but not even this year's theme for our entrepreneurship theme is kingdom business, right? Doing business God's way. Because not only am I showing up in the world as that, but I want to show up as a Christian. Like, I want to show up as a godly woman of faith in my business. Where's the people that can speak to me like that?